All right. Okay. Hello. Hello. All right. All right. Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining me. If you're live on the replay, I'm Dr. Vernita White, your brilliant solutionist and certified credentialed strategic life coach, life changer. Work with elite achievers, elite performers, people who are not just high achievers, but they want to go to the next level of being extraordinary and elite. So, it is September, and I am so excited about this month. One, because it's my birthday month, but two, I believe that September is supernatural. And I've been saying that for the last few days. Oh, testing. Okay. I didn't see the little dots move at the bottom. I've been saying that for the last few days. And I may have to hold it because I just want to make sure the audio works. Live, for some reason, I don't like to use my like microphone. I always get nervous, like especially like, can the people hear me? And I don't have anyone on here as of now because I didn't make an announcement that I was going to come on. So I don't have anybody to test anything. So we're just going to roll with it. So, like I said, it's my birthday month, but there have been some things that have been happening like every September since I started paying attention to it since like 2020, and we all know what happened then. And I was like, let me lean more into this. There have been some major things happening in my life. I've been in a situation and I'm like, okay, it is time to come out of this. And I've been working through some things. And as a coach, I I like to test my frameworks and skill set, especially in the personal development self-help industry. So I've been working on some things that I'll be excited to share. But another thing that brought up September being supernatural for me is I read this book, The Circle Maker by Mark Batterson. This is my fourth time reading the book. So when I read it the first time, I think I wrote my first book. I know it's small as I am going to redo this design. This was just what came to mind when I first did it. I co wrote it with my sister and our mother who had passed away. So my mother was a Sunday school teacher, Bible study teacher, traveling evangelist, and she was always about bringing practical applications for biblical principles. She was always into making the Bible practical, especially for young adults and the youth. Like that was where her ministry was, her heart was. And so when she passed away and I was cleaning out like all of her stuff, I came across like some notes that she had. It's a small book and I put it together. I self-published it. It is available on Amazon. And I just kind of, this was just something because my mom always wanted to write a book. And so she wrote herself like kind of a quote unquote manuscript and mailed it to herself. And then I found that my sister and I went ahead and did it. I probably will do a second edition to update some things that we've learned from her and really update this cover. So I said that because Mark in his book he talked about wanting to write a book by a certain age. So I was like, yep, me too. And then I wrote my second book, which we're getting better, we're getting there. And this one is really talking about some experiences when I first started my personal development journey, focusing turning inward. And a lot of people who are highly successful and achieve a lot of accolades, and you get to define success however you want. But in my realm, success was more about degrees, titles, positions, and things like that, not so much like money. And so I still had to work on like, okay, there's more to life than what I'm doing. I want to do more, especially at the age I was accomplishing so many things so fast and things still didn't feel right. So I went through like some personal development things and I talk about this in the talking about grit because I learned a great deal about grit when I was getting my doctorate degree. And so I was like, but it's more than grit. How can I apply that to my personal life and then continue to succeed professionally? And that's what I did. I took all what I learned and put it here. So you hear more, some about my story, but then also like, what did I do to get out of certain ruts and what do I still do. I've grown a lot since this book came out, and I was in the middle of writing a third book, but then I was like, you know what? I want to take a different approach to that. So I put that on pause to focus on something else. And so reading this book again, this time, I realized that there were just certain things I need to do to up level and really in the spiritual side. And I've always like I grew up in church. I've always gone to church, but there's just certain things that if you want to go to another level, and that's within life, but definitely in the Christian spiritual realm, there are things that you just need to do differently. Hey, hello, my BB. Hi there. Yeah, I didn't make an announcement. She just popped up. So there's just some things you have to do differently and in your life. So I am leading a like book chat in this private Facebook group about this book. Now this group they focus on prayers, and after I read this, I was led to go to the leader and was like, you know what? I'm gonna need y'all to up level y'all prayers. And I wanted to not just say that, but to show them what I meant. And a lot of them had already read the book, but it's one thing to read, like we read information all the time, but then to actually apply it. So this hit me differently this time. So I'm doing it in somebody else's Facebook group. If you want to join that Facebook group just for the time I'm teaching or leading the book chat, it is, I guess I can put it in there. Wow. Inspired. That's the name of the Facebook group. And I'm so the month of September. So if you go in there after that, I won't be teaching, but I think you should be able to see the replays. But then that got me to thinking, I was like, I probably need to do it either on a Zoom or on my Facebook page or something so that if you're not in the group or you're like, I don't want to go in there, I just want to hear what you have to say. I need to figure out how to just have it available for what I want to do, or I may just do it again outside of that group. So that's what I wanted to talk about. So the title of this is Jumpstart, like how to jumpstart this month with me. So I had a plan of what I was going to do as far as I have a bunch of videos on my YouTube channel, and I was like, you know what, let me just go live because one, it really is easier to go live in a sense. But then I was like, you know, I haven't really been like talking about ways that I actually support people who may not be ready for direct coaching with me. And one-on-one coaching, and I fought this, but I truly get it. I fought it. One-on-one coaching is the highest level of transformation that you can get. It's like it's like private tutoring before you struggle. You know, is that's one of the reasons why I never liked to tutor, because if the student was struggling, it was like you didn't pay attention the first time. But when I started working with students who were just wanting to be ahead and wanted, you know, a different level of challenge, I was like, okay, this is really where it's at. So you can be the type of person to go get tutoring because you are struggling, and that is a place for that. Or you can be the person who, like the people that I attract, like, look, life is pretty good. I'm doing great in some areas. I'm doing good in some areas, but I want to do great or phenomenal, or I know that there's more. Now, do I help people in between? Absolutely. But those are the people that I focus on because I like a challenge. And I work with people who inspire me, and I help them, let's say, let's go after what's impossible and see if we can make that possible. And I wouldn't be able to do that if I didn't get like a second wind from this book. So I've talked about like ways to work with me one on one, which is private coaching, VIP days. Yeah, I think I have, yeah, VIP days, which are at first I had them like virtually, but then I was like face to face, come to Orlando. That's where I am, Central Florida. And I was like, that would be the highest level. Or we can do a package, which is virtually, and do some spend some time together that way. So I have different levels for that. But a VIP day, I was like, yeah, you get more into it when you are face to face with someone. We're back outside in these streets, so it is much better, a different level of connection and vibration when you do, especially for a compact amount of time. Now, I know I said Central Florida, and yes, this is hurricane season. We just had one kind of bypass us, but for the most part, Central Florida, you are safe. You will be safe. Just watch the weather report if you are, and it's only for like 2 days, so you can come in and go out, so you don't get trapped. Okay. So if you're not ready for that, I want to come on and talk about two ways to jumpstart if you're just like hesitant. And I'm gonna keep talking to you about this because I realized that I did not fully do this. I'm the type of person, I hear something, I see something, I go straight to the top. Whether that's in clothes, I found out it's like that with coaching. I found out like it's like that with experiences. I don't want to gradually grow. Excuse me, I want to go straight to the top. And that's not always the best thing if you don't have all of the support. So, what do I mean by that? Sometimes when you go straight to high end, high level coaching and your mind isn't mentally prepared for what can happen, you can start self sabotaging. And I'm not talking about one on one. Let me back up. Let me talk about groups because that's what I did first. So, high end group masterminds. They weren't coaching, and there's a big difference between coaching and consulting, but I digress. I didn't put the two together, and I was an academic coach and the academic consulting, and it's like, why didn't you transfer this over to personal development anyway? So I would go to high end programs, and because my I got 5 degrees. I've been entrenched in the education system on how to learn, so my mind is, well, let me go and get into a program and learn with support. But if you're not ready for that, and all of these things are bubbling up to the surface, whether that's, I did a business program first, and then I did a retreat, and then I got into some more programs. Now, I will say, after the first business retreat, I mean, after the first business program and retreat, that was should have been a signal, say, hey, you like individualized support, you need to go one-on-one, get a one-on-one coach. But no, I was like, I can learn that, I can do this on my own, and that was not the move. So I like to tell people, at least start with something like a, oh, that's thunder, I need to hurry up. It's not a hurricane, but it's Florida in the summertime, so we're going to get storms. So I would tell people, like, look, just start off with a self study if you are not sure. I would either say start off with a self study so you can get a feel for that person, and then I would say go to a one-on-one coach or one-on-one type of support. And the reason why that's a jump, even though they tell us on this, I have a product suite, you do want to have a group coaching program to test out your framework. You have to know yourself. If you're looking for like a skill to learn, like if you want to learn how to do back end systems and build funnels and things like that, then a group program would make sense. It's like you just need somebody to tell you, do this, click this, put that together, all of that. But then the underlining part of why you are afraid to make some videos, or what's holding you back from writing emails, especially when the people tell you what to write, or why you don't want to show up on camera, or about your pricing, what's underneath all of that. They're not they may not talk about that in the program, because their one job is like, you need to learn how to do this back end and keep it moving. What's stopping you from doing that? That's where a coach comes in and supports you along the way to say, this is why you're not doing what you're doing. And if you said that this was your goal, we need to help you get here, and we need to clear up all of those things that are causing you to stay stuck. I myself included, I know a bunch of high achievers. We got all the skills. We've been in all the programs. We know all the things. But it's like, why aren't you at this certain level? And that's because it is that element of really understanding the difference between coaching and, I'll say, kind of like consulting, but teaching. So it's like, I was a college professor. You can come to my class. I can teach you what you need to know. And if you got it, good. If you didn't, you didn't. That's kind of how a program works. But if you're not going to take the time to sit there and study and internalize it, then you go get support or you come to my office hours and be like, Dr. Glenn, I just don't get it. And then I can understand what areas you're not getting. And a lot of programs do not do that. Also, a lot of programs are like you meet once a month and you're out there just all by yourself. And even in the collegiate space, when you took if you took classes, a lot of my references are school. I don't leave anybody out, but that's just my background. You didn't go to class once a month. I mean, if anything, you went from high school 5 days a week to going the minimum was once a week. You know, there are times you went twice a week, 3 times a week, and then you had the once a week for 3 hours, right? But a lot of times, especially your freshman and sophomore year, they didn't tell you to just come once a month because you would fail unless you were just that type of student. All right, so I'm getting too deep in. That's not what I want to talk to you about. I want to talk to you about the self-study programs. I know it may sound contradictory, but the reason why I want to talk about these self-study programs so you can get a feel and an understanding so you can start seeing some success along the way and get a feel for how I am, how I teach, and something to provide you value if you were not just sitting here binge watching videos. You can actually take some things, some steps, and then, of course, get involved in a Facebook group or a type of community for additional support. So, one is the Holistic Harmony Challenge. I'm gonna see if I can show you this on you probably can't see that on my Canva. I made a workbook. So what I did, it was a real life challenge that I did. I did a video of 5 days, for 5 days, but it was really 4 days. Um, and we talked about different areas of your life. It's built on my second book, kind of sort of, when I learned about the foundational work of who we are for success. Just regular. I'll go through it here. So it's like, well, because we think about personal life and professional life, and that's it. I know that's what I thought. All right, my personal life is everything else. My professional life is my career. I got a plan for that. I know how to attack that and move on up, and it's very clear to me. But then when it got to other areas and goals, it's like, yeah, I want to do that, but is there really a plan of action? There wasn't. I can tell for me, and then people I've worked with, there wasn't any clarity on what do you want to achieve outside of work. Like you can talk about your professional success, even if you didn't like your current job, you knew the direction you want to go in, especially coming from undergrad all the way out, or even like, okay, you got your master's, and and you went, and then even if you changed careers, it's kind of like you already knew you had a plan. But then when other life started happening, like in your relationships with your health, your mental well-being, like what's the plan to make sure that you're doing great in those areas? There really isn't one. So I talked to you about, like, I give you a welcome, and then I called it back then the lopsided achiever challenge, like lopsided achiever challenge. And that's because I watched an episode of the Parkers back in the day, and they were like, she had to get signed up for lopsided lovers, where the there was a support group for people who were invested in relationships that they didn't have relationships with these people. So you know the Parkers, uh, Miss Parker and Professor Ogilvy, she has this whole relationship with him, and it's not real. So I was like, that's how a lot of us are. We are so big on our professional side, and then it's like we tilt the scale and we're weak. That muscle on our personal side is in atrophy. So I called it. So when you read it, you'll say, why lopsided achievers? And I said this because we suffer from a lack of balance. And I'm not talking about work life balance. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about being able to touch and understand all the areas of our lives and be aware of that, and the awareness of you are more than just your job and then go home. Or even if you did community service, or even if you were like involved in your church, what else do you do that relates to you? So then I talk about, so on day one I talk about health, wellness and environment, and tolerations. So see, isn't it pretty? So I talk about that on day one. On day two, I lump in relationships, which are romantic, family, friends, network, and community. And the reason why I lumped these together, because it was a challenge. It was like, hurry up and get it together. We don't have all day. So day three, I talked about spirituality, creativity, and intellect. And then day four, I talked about money, which is abundance and legacy, and then what's your money story? I need to get okay. So, my beauty put in. She loves the lopsided achievers group. It is over there, and I'm gonna be honest. I'm not over there because it's like I want more people to be in there because there's content available. You can go in there right now. But if you sign up for this course, and I'm gonna talk about another one. I may hold it. I'll talk about this one, and I'm gonna get off because it is storming, and my grandmother is calling me, so she's worried. I'll just talk about this one today, and then I'll come back and talk about the other one. But if you go over there, and I'm gonna tell you this, it's as of September 2023. Oh snap! You will get more attention and support in there at this moment while we're still like bringing people over. So that's another thing. I know everyone wants to go to like the top coaches and things, and I do believe I am an elite coach. But as far as number wise, then it's like you wonder why you don't get the support. You better go find some people that you can connect with. You've read up on them, you've interacted with them, and get into their stuff while they're building so you can be on the ground floor. I'm just saying. So when y'all come back and I got 100,000 people over here, don't be like, "Are you gonna show up in the Facebook group?" Absolutely not. I'm just saying. All right. So day one: health, wellness, and environment. I tell you to make 3 columns, and then you talk about what you're tolerating. And then I tell you about tolerations. And there are a lot of things that, we just go through life with just there. And one example of how it made sense to me was the junk drawer in the kitchen, or like that space in your closet that's just full of stuff. It's not in the way. Nobody really knows it's junky, but you do. And every time you open it, it's like, but you don't do anything about it. That's a toleration. And those things build up in your subconscious and they start causing blocks. So you want to deal with those in the area of health, wellness, and environment. And then I give you some prompts on what to do with that and how to approach that. The second day, I talk about relationships. So you see my diagram, kind of, sort of, because my light, hopefully, you can see that. So, in my diagram, we talk about, no, I don't want to ask a question. So you were in the middle. We talk about self, family, friends, network, community, and relationships. And then I ask you some questions to where you really take a deep dive into that. And so I tell you on the video, because it's a video and then you have actual work, similar to school. A lot of times we just consume things, but we don't get into action. And that's where a lot of us tend to fall off, is the execution. So don't just look at the pretty workbook, actually execute. Okay, let me hurry up. All right, day 3: spirituality, intellect, and creativity. Now, if you were here before and you got the workbook, it was a 3-part exercise, and this is full transparency. But now it's only a 2-part where I talk about meditation, and then I talk about like my favorite Bible translations and things like that. And it'll make sense when you watch the video. I'm saying this, addressing this now, because when you hear it on the video, I did not go change it because I just changed the workbook. So the 3 parts was meditation, then talking about your energy centers, which were chakras, and then the Bible. I personally, this is just me, I've done my research and looked at the science behind the energy centers and chakras. And I'm going to tell you how I use them. It's not something that I go to and lay it all out and things like that. But if there's something I'm feeling like in my body or in my throat, and then I say, well, what is that? What does that mean? And there's a blockage. And then I go to my Bible and find scripture and I start praying over that. And I started doing that when I started understanding, like, God is the source for everything. So let me not just focus on just meditation and the energy centers. You'll hear a lot of that in personal development. I took it out of the workbook because I don't want people who have not done the same research and talking to God and getting it together. I don't want them to be tripped up. And so while I personally, I am like that, it doesn't do anything to me, but I do understand that if you're heavily involved in how the origins of it, if you really focus so much on chakras and what it means in that sense, that can cause some problems in the spiritual realm. I'm just putting it out there. But I just, if you hear me talk about energy centers, I look at it from a scientific perspective, and I believe all good things, God creates all things. He created us to have this body, and I believe He gave scientists that knowledge about the energy centers. And I've read research on that, but I know everyone isn't going to do that. So again, if you enroll on the challenge and you hear me talk about that in the video, but you do not see it in the workbook, that is why I took it out. So I don't want people to be over here conflicted. That is my responsibility as a coach and a leader. So it's like I know everyone's not going to do that. So it's similar to this. Like uh if you go to if you go to a church function, let's say you drink wine, and you don't get drunk, you just like the taste, you just like all of that experience. But then you go to a church function, and some people have this certain view about wine or and consider it alcohol, and you shouldn't be doing that. It's not that you feel condemned, but you're just going to just respect the atmosphere, not cause any problems, and you're just not going to have wine that day with the people. That's how I see it. So it's not like I feel guilty or shame, or you feel guilty or shame about having the wine and things like that. But it's like, you know what? So I don't cause anybody to stumble or fall, and that's actually in the Bible, then I'm just going to not do it. So that's a way I took that out, just so you know. And then day 4, I talk about money, legacy, and abundance. And we talk about your money story, and then how to dream big. And I give you some prompts for that because, like I said, when I thought about being successful, it was titles, positions, degrees, status, and things like that. And money was like, oh, okay. But then it's like you have these big dreams and goals, and you look at your salary or your second job or what you have going on, you're like, what I'm doing right now is not going to get me that. So you do need to understand money. We need actual resources. But a lot of us have this warped mindset around money and talking about money, especially if you are a believer, a Christian, faith based, you know, about money, then it's like, well, we need to clear that up so you can get some. All right, so then I give you some prompts for that. Then I give you a reflection. And then if you are liking that and you want to go and say, well, how can I continue this? And then I say you can apply for a call with me. So it is called the Holistic Harmony. I changed it to self challenge because it is you by yourself going through this. The videos are very short, and then maybe I think the last video I end up, you may see the webinar. I have to go back into it, but I wanted you to just have to touch bases on those foundational parts of your life. There are more, but at least touch on those so you can start get your mind working. And then it's like, you know what, I know what I want to work on, or I have an idea of what I want to do when I work with a coach versus just showing up with the coach. Yes, you go over your goals, but you haven't even taken the time to understand what you really want before you go to the coach. And then you're like, well, the coach, even if you went one on one, man, coaching is not working. Well, that's because you didn't talk about your true desires. Or even if you went into a group program, me talking from personal experience. Yeah, I had this experience with transformational work, and I was like, okay, I want to learn more about this, but I didn't have a plan. It was just like, let me learn this information. And then it was like, then do what? And I think I said this before. I really started all of this because I want to be a better speaker. And then I learned to really be an impactful speaker, you had to share some really impactful stories. And in order to share some impactful stories, you had to do some work so you could tell those stories. And that's how all of this really started. Okay. And then I just fell in love with transformation because I was technically doing this not self study, self improvement, personal development work with my college students because they would come to a mathematics classroom with a whole bunch of issues, and I was like, well, before y'all can learn the math yourself, you got to heal from some trauma, and we got to work through some things. And then before you go and be somebody's teacher or principal or superintendent, you need to work on your core issues in all of these areas. So I had to put that curriculum down and then focus on that. May not have been the best thing because if you don't know my story, I got fired, not for that, probably, but I don't regret it. And that was just a setup for me to do this work. So, working in the realm of transformation, I don't do typical coaching. And if you don't believe me, you can go on my YouTube channel and find the playlist. I think it's called Brilliant Power Hour. And I have people, there are like 3 interviews right now where I actually do coaching like that. So this is not a, so what comes up for you this week, or let me check on your goals. We may do a little bit of that, but I'm here to really help you change your life and partner with you to change your life and show you that you have your own solutions inside of you. So that's how I support you and how I show up. And I'm inviting you to go enroll into the Holistic Harmony Challenge. It is like low cost, like is low. This low cost is like right above my book. So you can just get a taste, because I do believe that, people should experience at a certain level. And yeah, so that is my invitation to you. I said I was going to talk about 2 things, but I'm only going to talk about one because, again, it is storming. I'm going to get off here because this is live, and then to let my grandmother know that I am okay over here on this side. All right. So thank you so much. It is a level of respect. It is, and let me know what part you're talking about, because I think it goes for all of that. All right, so thank you so much for listening and learning with me. Remember, wherever you are, first of all, like this, even if it's not something that you could share, at least like it and subscribe to the channel. I am trying to grow this channel. I have a very specific goal in mind. And I was like, you need to tell people what you want to do in certain cases so that people can support you. And that's one thing about self-development work, where especially if you look like me, it's like, oh, your work will speak for yourself. No, you need to tell people what you want. You speak for your work. All right. So thank you so much for listening and learning with me. Remember, wherever you are, to be well, to be empowered, to be bold, and to be brilliant. Until next time.